Good morning, and thank you, Laura, for turning it over. My name is Gary Hoogeveen. I'm pleased to be back once again to talk to you, and I was here last year giving you an update on Rocky Mountain Power. I will do the same today. It's our pleasure to be a sponsor of this terrific conference, obviously extremely well attended, and it's certainly something very positive for this state, as well as certainly, obviously, the Uintah Basin. At Rocky Mountain Power, we serve 85% of the state of Utah, including much of the basin here. And there's lots of different things I could possibly talk about, and kind of stepping back and thinking about what would be of interest to you, as perhaps many of you, if not most of you, are customers of ours, and certainly and perhaps your businesses as well. It seems like the thing that you care most about is the prices, right? I mean, what we can do at Rocky Mountain Power to spur development around the state, and certainly in the basin here, is to keep our prices low. And that is certainly our intent. So this is the topic for my discussion this morning, is some of the things that my colleagues, frankly, have been doing to keep prices low and been very innovative, very creative in what they've been able to do at our fossil fuel plants, our coal plants here in Utah, and our natural gas plants here in Utah. So I want to talk a little bit about that and what that means to you as our customers. So first, if I can get that, I want to talk about the mechanism by which we can help save money. That mechanism is called the Energy Imbalance Market, or EIM. It is a market that we co-founded with the California Independent System Operator, or also known as CAISO, back in 2014. It is directly responsible for nearly $100 million of savings to the PacifiCorp customers. I want to just orient you a little bit again who PacifiCorp is, who Rocky Mountain Power is. If you look at the different pictures here, it's a little confusing because they all look orange. That's because they are current members of the Energy Imbalance Market. However, it is labeled PacifiCorp here in Utah, Wyoming, and Idaho. That is Rocky Mountain Power. We are one company called PacifiCorp. One division that we operate here in the Intermountain states is called Rocky Mountain Power. The other division, headquartered in Portland, is independently operated, and it is in southern Oregon, northern California, and small parts of Washington. So when I talk about $100 million savings to PacifiCorp customers, that's roughly 60% of these customers are in Rocky Mountain Power, 40% are in Pacific Power, headquartered again in Portland. So Rocky Mountain Power represents, let's call it $60 million of that savings. Dramatic and significant savings over 3 short years. What is the Energy Imbalance Market? What is EIM? What does it mean? In very simplistic terms, each of these organizations, and again, it started with PacifiCorp and CAISO, Arizona Public Service, NV Energy, Seattle City and Light, Portland General, Puget Sound, they are all joining. As more groups join, the opportunity for savings increases. Well, how did the savings come about? Before the EIM, each of these entities had to come with their own supply. So you would look at, let's just talk about Rocky Mountain Power and PacifiCorp. We would look at all of our load. And so Uintah Basin needs, 500 megawatts. You add up all of the load around the system, and let's say it adds to 10,000 megawatts, just using round numbers. We would have to have for that day 10,000 megawatts plus a reserve margin. That's typically around 13%. So we would have to come to that day with an abundance of our own supply. That supply then we would dispatch and use ourselves, and we had to basically live on an island. These islands are called balancing authorities. Each of these independent organizations had their own islands that they had to manage. That's very inefficient, particularly when we have tremendous interconnection between these different islands. And so we don't have to operate as islands. We can, in fact, utilize each other's overproduction when we need more, and when we have more, we can serve people's underproduction. Well, that's exactly what the EIM does, and it does it on a very quick basis, a 5-minute basis. So you still come to the day with your full reserves and your full supply, but then to the extent that, for whatever reason, some coal plant might be underperforming, have an issue with a coal supply, very rare. More likely, maybe some wind that you have been planning on, the wind doesn't blow, or the sun isn't quite as intense and you're not getting the supply out of your solar facilities. When that happens, we are now able to share between organizations. And particularly where the big savings come, and where I want to talk about the rest of my prepared remarks, is around the abundance of solar energy that is being produced, particularly in California, at the Cal ISO. They have times, which I'll talk about here, where they produce so much that the prices actually go negative. Why in the world would prices go negative, you're thinking? Well, it happens when you must run a unit. Wind is the easiest example. Wind facilities get production tax credits for whenever they run. So even if prices are less than zero, they can still make money, a wind plant can, because they're getting $23 a megawatt hour tax credit. So they can bid in something less than minus $23 and still make money. So when that happens, we are now in the position to take advantage of that. So what you're seeing here on the left is a March day in 2014 versus 2017. The green curve is 2017. It is plotting the day-ahead price curve and the solar impact thereof. So in 2014, you see that top line. Now, in the middle of the day, you see it droop, and that's really because of the production, the amount of solar in California, typically, mostly. But compare the lines from 2014 to 2017. You see this dramatic drop during the middle of the day in price. And why is that? It's because all of the rooftop solar that has been installed in California, all of the new solar farms that have been installed in California, because they are being done to meet a 33% renewable portfolio standard in California, which is now moving to 50%, which there's a bill that is currently being discussed in the California legislature to go to 100%. So you see that as this continues to go and to grow, we will continue to see more and more solar produced during the middle of the day, prices falling. Now what you see on the right-hand side, you can't read it, I appreciate, but you see the frequency of negative EIM prices. And you see, and I'm just going to point out a couple statistics, that 12% of all intervals in February of 2017 were negative. Prices were actually below zero. That means we took power from California and they paid us to do it. And we passed that 100% on to customers. I want to repeat that. PacifiCorp, Rocky Mountain Power, we make $0 on any of these savings. They go 100% to our customers. That is something that we're quite proud of, and I'll talk a little bit more about why we're doing this, why we're making the EIM savings go completely to our customers, why we are trying to save money for our customers to keep prices low. But back to the graph, 12% of all intervals in 17 were negative versus 5% in 2016 for February. And then a little update, it's not on that graph, but for March of 2017, fully 24% of all intervals were negative versus 13% the previous March. 24%, that's nearly 1 in 4 intervals, and these are hourly intervals, were negative. We were paid to take money that we then passed on to you, paid to take their electricity that we then passed those savings on to you. Quite remarkable, honestly. And we'll continue to grow. As I say, California is doing nothing but building more and more renewables to meet their 100% RPS potential new law. This phenomenon will continue to grow, and we'll be happy to take advantage of it. I also, a little homage here to Ernest Hemingway, the Sun Also Is Eclipsed. This is a recent thing that we just did here in the United States. You can see in the upper left, that was the track. Many of you, I'm sure, took advantage of our great position here in Utah to be roughly 90% eclipse. Some of you perhaps even went up into Idaho and Wyoming and other places to see the total eclipse. What happened, interestingly, during that day was obviously a very planned event, but a significant reduction in the solar output. Just in our territory, in PacifiCorp East, it was called PAC East, or PACE, or PACE, we saw a drop from 450 megawatts to roughly 50 megawatts during the height of the eclipse. And that wasn't total. That was, like I say, we're roughly 90% in northern Utah, less than that in southern Utah. But 400 megawatts is the size of a typical combined cycle plant, just a little bit smaller than that, kind of the size of a large coal unit. That, over a course of about an hour and a half or a few hours, went away and came back. And that had to be prepared for. We had to be ready, and all of our EIM participants, with other facilities standing by. And what is it that fills in the gaps when intermittent resources like solar and wind, huff and puff, come and go? Well, it's of course our fossil fuel plants. And our fossil fuel fleet has done tremendous work in preparing for not only just the eclipse, but obviously every other day when you have wind and solar coming and going. Now, coal plants typically, most people probably think, if you have any insight into this or have heard any discussions in the past, coal plants are thought to be these big lumbering giants of the power plant industry that really don't react very quickly. We took that idea and turned it on its head and said, well, why? And can we do anything different about it? And the truth is, yes, we can. And so what we did was really look at all of our power plants and said, what can we do to reduce the lowest of the low, the minimums, so that we can take advantage of this cheap and oftentimes negatively priced renewable power in the Southwest during the springtime particularly? And what can we do to change how quickly the coal plants and the gas plants ramp or move up and down in their ability to produce and back off production? So you see here that a couple things we did. Much of it really changing communication, but even more so, we increased our ability to react, using forecasts for wind and solar, take the coal plants, react to them, be able to adjust the production, the actual coal coming from our coal pile, be aggressive in forecasting what's going to happen, and adjust and be anticipatory. In doing that, we've been able to react quickly. And we react because we're talking to dispatch, which for PacifiCorp is in Portland. We are on the phone with them in these various different power plants, the coal and the gas plants, talking to them every 15, 20 minutes. That's unheard of. It used to be kind of 2-3 times a day. We would call up and say, hey, what do you think? We're running full out, right? Yeah, you're running full out. Okay, good. That's not the case anymore. We are talking to them multiple times an hour, ramping up and down. I won't explain the graph on the bottom, but you can basically see that they're falling down, they're coming up, they're going down. That's not the way a coal plant used to work. It used to be on, maybe come down in the evening and overnight for a little bit at its minimum, and then go right back and be on the whole time. A little bit further discussion here, and this is a very detailed graph. I don't expect you to be able to read everything. I just want to point out kind of what's going on. If you just take, this is a graph of prices and the output of one of our coal units, Hunter Unit 3. Hunter's here in Utah. I think many of you know the coal plant I'm talking about. The output, just look on the right-hand side, not where the arrows are pointing. The right-hand side, a little bit more dramatic. The top curve is the output that the Hunter Unit 3 was going through on this day in, I believe it's February of 2017. Yeah, February 4. So you see in the morning it's kind of going, and it's coming up, going to meet the morning pull, kind of typical. Then we get this price signal. The prices are shown there in the bottom of that right-hand side in the orange, and the prices are going negative. This is exactly what I'm talking about, what I talked about earlier, when the solar starts coming up and it's big and it's more than California expected, it's more than their demand can allow, so it's got to go somewhere. Well, we'll take it, and you can pay us for it. Thank you very much. And that happened. Now, what happens is that Unit 3 typically would just go up and it would flatline above there, at kind of its maximum. But these guys see it coming, and they take action. They drop down to their minimums, as you see there in that flat line, and they stay there as low as they can go and take as much, and so we take as much of that power from California as possible. Then as the prices come back up and start increasing, we ramp right back up as quickly as possible. Just a couple numbers here. We've changed our PacifiCorp fleet to reduce our minimums. So what we thought each plant could run at in 2014 to now in 2017, we've reduced those minimums by 1,500 megawatts. That means we can take 1,500 megawatts more of power from these cheap overabundance of solar during those times when California is overproducing. And we've increased that ramp rate, how quickly we can turn it up and turn it down, by almost 2 times. That all equates to that $100 million of savings that we're passing on to our customers, and is just a tremendous outcome by our plants. And I just want to brag on my colleagues and our plants a little bit, if you will allow me. I'm going to show you three graphs. This is the managing director at the Hunter unit, Lauren Huntsman, receiving an award from our CEO, Cindy Crane. The award is for the Generation Knowledge Service Plant Operational Excellence Award. It recognizes power plants that demonstrate excellence in cost, operational management, as well as availability, reliability, and safety. Very important. So that's the Hunter plant. This is the Huntington plant receiving the same award from Cindy. And this is not something that PacifiCorp is awarding. This is an industry award that these plants were awarded. And this is Daryl Cunningham, the managing director of the Huntington plant. And last but not least, our Current Creek natural gas plant, and the managing director there, Brad Richards, receiving the same award. So we're very proud. I'm very proud to call them colleagues, and I'm very proud of the work they do. Just to finish here, why are we doing this again? It's to keep your rates low. We understand that the best thing we can do to spur economic development in the basin throughout Utah, and frankly throughout our service territory, is to keep our rates low. And our rates are low. The circle there is Utah. This is a rate stack of all the states, different states, and the ones in which we operate are red, as well as the US average there noted. So Utah's rates are low. We'd like to get them lower, frankly, and we're committed to doing that through things like the EIM and passing on $100 million of savings to our customers. So thank you for your time.